Hi, Hal.
Hi, Stan.
Hey, welcome back to Some Forever, Some for Better podcast.
Where we talk about dictionaries and thesauruses and almanacs.
Encyclopedias.
Oh, yeah,
dictionaries. It's like there's a difference.
Those were pretty adjacent. When we talk about Stan's picture books containing letters,
that's all I understand.
Numbers, and inaccurate information from 1877.
It's inaccurate from everywhere. I'm not sure what's accurate. It's just different.
Yeah. Oh, welcome to the podcast where we discuss inaccurate information and perpetuate it.
That sounds perfect.
Yes.
Hey, would you like to know our topics for this week?
Sure. Why not?
So from 1877, we're going to talk about John Milton.
I can't wait to hear you make him so boring.
From 1980 is the Arctic Ocean.
Ooh, that's like everybody's third favorite ocean.
I think it's a fifth favorite ocean, but yeah.
Only because they don't remember the Indian Ocean.
And then from Wikipedia is Salsola Kali. It's a plant. It ties everything we've ever talked about together into one plant.
Oh, how beautiful. I hope it's a cactus. Maybe a cactus.
It's not. It's like a cactus, though, because it's a succulent.
Oh, everybody loves succulents. That's like, okay, so you're ancient and don't understand video games. There's this video game called Starfield, which is really boring for the first 12 hours, but you can steal succulents and put them in your ship. And that's all I did in Starfield.
Okay, well, we'll get a little bit in that. Maybe it might be in one of the
So
areas.
here's what we're going to do, Stan.
Yeah.
Today is like the 11th day in a row where it's just been shitty weather and everything sucks. So I'm pretty low energy and not going to be able to carry you the way that I normally do. So what I did is I brought my cool pen, and I'm going to remember 2 or 3 of the 29 facts that you share about each of these topics, and I'm going to write a little poem about them at the end. So after you're finally done talking, you get to hear a little poem. Are you excited?
I'm real excited about that.
Look at this. Look at this pen. It's all space-themed and shit. Like, you can see there's satellites and crap engraved into the body.
You get real excited about pens,
And then look at...
Oh my God, it's got the nib on it. Is that a nib or a nub?
Nib. And the nib has a little rocket and a solar system on it. Isn't that cute? So, that's what we're going to do today.
That's what we're talking about today. Yes. You're writing with your pen.
Yeah,
it's a fancy pen. It's got like a...
It's pretty nice. It's a
nib.
Nice... Yeah, it has a nice nib.
All right. I'm going to start in 1877 with John Milton.
Woohoo!
You know John Milton?
Yeah, he wrote the thing.
He did. He's like, everybody knows he wrote Paradise Lost. That's his thing, right? He did Paradise Lost. And sometimes you get Paradise Lost confused with Dante's Inferno because you're like, I know they were books written a long time ago about some biblical thing. But this guy was like, he's fucking cool. He did a bunch of stuff. There's things, I don't think you're aware of them, but I thought it was interesting.
I can't wait to be regaled here. If you see me not paying attention, it's because I'm taking notes.
I think you should pay attention to this because first, his birthday was December 9th of 1608. He was born on Bread Street.
12/9/1608 Bread Street. I'm not going to remember what any of this fucking means by the time we're done talking about it.
In the cheap side of London.
The cheap side of London was that? Well, yeah, it wasn't called Toast Street.
He's like the cheap side. It wasn't. Like, okay, so is that the bad side? I don't know.
He was born on Bread Street, not Crostini Street. Crostini Boulevard.
It's just funny. It's like cheap side. What's like, okay, you guys are from the bad area of town. Shitty side town.
Shitty side. Shitty side of water London. I got no water.
His dad was known as Mr. John Milton of Bread Street. And he was a scrivener.
A scrivener? Does that mean that he used fancy pens?
He probably did because, what was it, quill pens back then? I don't know. It was like 1608. So what was the common usage of pens at the time?
I don't know. The quill pen is purported to have been invented in Spain in, I want to say, like 1500s.
Okay, so it could have been quill
1400s,
pens.
1500s, yeah.
But it's what a scrivener is, because I looked it up, because I'm like, what's a scrivener? It's a clerk. We come back to clerk.
Hey! Now, how many people did he manslaughter?
You got to do some manslaughter.
Beep-beep-leedle-leedle-leedle.
And they make you be a clerk.
So wait. You're telling me that the way to get a job is do manslaughter and be forced to have one?
Forced to have a job.
I've been fucking doing this wrong. Why am I on Indeed.com? I should just be hitting people with my car.
Manslaughter.
I'm just going to hang out outside of Wells Fargo Bank, and the next time it gets robbed, because it will, and the bank robber needs a ride and threatens me with a gun to drive him and, like, floor it as far away from the bank as fast as possible, I'm going to let him in the car. I am going to floor it away from the bank as fast as possible, and I'm going to hit every single pedestrian that I see because I can use the excuse that he forced me. And
manslaughter.
So it's just like it's not murder, it's manslaughter. And I'll just smile at him and be like, no one will believe you. And then I'll have a job. I will be gainfully employed.
You'll be a clerk.
Yeah, my 401k is fucking empty as of like 3 days ago, so
It's like, yeah, because all the money's gone.
I really need this clerk.
We don't know where it went.
Yeah, it gone.
So Mr. John Milton was an Oxfordshire man, except it wasn't probably Oxfordshire. It was probably Oxfordshire.
Oxfordshire.
It says his grandfather was a staunch Catholic, but he turned Protestant. I looked at this a little bit.
What a fucking rebel.
I look in Wikipedia gives a little more information. His grandfather, so his dad's dad, was known as Richard the Ranger Milton. Fucking name like the Ranger. It was like in 1500s. He was like the Ranger.
So was his nickname Dick Ranger?
And he was a devout Catholic, and he disinherited John when he turned Protestant and sent him away to the Cheapside of London. I did look up Cheapside, and I guess it meant some word that meant market or to buy or something like that. It was like, it wasn't cheap as we mean. It was like a marketplace.
Okay.
Sounds like Cheapside, though. It sounds like the shitty part of town.
Shitty part. Maybe it was a shitty part of town. I mean, it was London in 1608. The whole town was the shitty part of town.
Probably nasty, like horse crap all over the place.
Yeah.
And it did say he really liked his dad. I think Mr. John Milton of Bread Street hugged John Milton, which is unusual in that time frame. And people didn't do that. It was like, you're 11 years old, and you're like, well, you're out in the street, boy.
Well, when you're 11 years old, you should be sweeping chimneys or in the coal mines where children belong.
So he really supported his education. And he went to college at Christ College in Cambridge, which is one of the colleges there. And it said it was on the old system of university education, which combined Latin and Greek. Because if you don't know Greek, he probably didn't even know Greek. But this guy did. He was educated, so he was like, he knew Greek. It was cool.
Who the fuck doesn't know both Latin and Greek?
Exactly, because you got to know Greek.
Uncultured shits.
It said they had the disputation of scholastic logic and philosophy, but with little physical science and next to no mathematics. You know who could have survived at that college?
Me! Because mathematics is for fucking nerds! Ooh. Wait, if there was no mathematics and so there were no boys studying mathematics, who got all the wedgies and the toilet swirlies? Well, the toilet wasn't invented yet, but who got all the, taking your under britches and yanking up your butt cheeks onto your over bridges, and then fucking hooking them over your eyes. Who got that done to them if there was no maths?
It sounds like it was John Milton.
Oh no!
Because his nickname at college was
Dick
the lady.
Ranger.
No, the lady. He called him the lady. In 1877, he said he was called the lady as a sneer at what the rougher men thought toward his unusual prudishness. So he's called the lady. So, in 1980, it said his nickname, the lady, was because of his handsome and delicate features and a purity of mind and behavior that disdained the diversions of his coarser fellows. So they're rougher in 1877, they were coarser in 1980.
So it sounds like a bunch of fellas wanted to fuck this guy, and he was like, no. And so they made fun of him relentlessly, which is highly relatable. I'm starting to like this guy.
And that's... I like this guy, so after reading about him, I really like him.
That's refreshing. Usually we read about fucking assholes, but...
Well, there are some things you won't like about him.
Oh, well, you don't have to tell me that stuff.
Yeah, we'll get into that. It's important to the story.
No. We got to treat all of the subjects we talk about like Confederate statues. Just don't tell me any history. That's just a man on a horse and nothing else. This
is important. But in Wikipedia it said, and this is where I'm going to back you up, because it said, his complexion exceedingly fair. He was so fair that they called him the Lady of Christ's College. So I do think they wanted to fuck him. That's what they're saying in Wikipedia.
That's hot. That's hot. Okay, excuse me. I got to go write a fan fiction about this.
But it did say in 1807 that he also learned fencing and other gentlemanly exercises of the time. And he was an expert swordsman. So fencing and swordsman.
That's also both hot and effeminate.
Swordsman, is that like with a broadsword? And fencing's like a little foil, right?
Yeah.
No, fencing's a foil, but swordsmanship is like the giant thing. It's wielded.
I don't think that he's talking about a great sword. I don't think that swordsmanship explicitly defines the ability to wield a fucking great sword. No, two-handed weapon.
Two-handed sword.
It feels like that's something else.
And there's an apocryphal saying that said he was the last person to receive corporal punishment at Cambridge, or any of the Oxford or Cambridge. So that means he got whipped.
Okay, why are you telling me all these hot facts about John Milton?
I think you'll like him. I think you're going to like him.
What am I supposed to do? Just sit here for an hour with my legs squeezed tightly together? Just stick it down in
this guy was, I mean, he did a lot more than just that Paradise Lost thing, whatever the fuck that is.
I forgot to write Lost. I just wrote Paradise.
He did graduate college, got his master's, and he wanted to lead a life in pure, perfect leisure and in a pleasant rural environment. So he went and kind of roamed around and learned.
That's what I want to do.
When I read about him, there's a couple things, because this is like some sicknesses was going on. They talked about like the plague in certain places, and he had to go away from the plague. He's lost friends in shipwrecks, which is kind of interesting.
All of this is just really relatable.
I know, because he's happening right now.
Losing flags and shipwrecks, also known as being on Facebook.
Don't want to go there.
Yeah.
He initially wanted to go into the clergy, but he did not want to be a
molested.
Slave to the... No, it's different, probably.
Okay.
But in Wikipedia, it talked about he undertook 6 years of self-directed private study. So he didn't go to school. He just read on his own. He came from a wealthy family, even though we're in Cheapside.
I studied privates for 6 years because I was really lonely.
And it said it was not retreating into rural idle. He read ancient and modern works of theology, philosophy, history, all kinds of stuff. He said it was considered to be among the most learned English poets. So he did all this on his own. He wasn't like going to school, and he wasn't just hanging around and reading. It was actually actively studying. He knew Latin, Greek, of course.
Of course.
Hebrew, French, Spanish, Italian, Old English.
Oh, that's a completely different language. Legit ass.
He said probably Dutch, so he knew a lot of languages.
Dutch.
Yeah.
God damn.
So
all right.
That was crazy. So he did that for 6 years, close to London, and then he took a European trip. He went to Paris and Nice and Genoa and Leghorn.
Like the foghorn? Was there a foghorn?
I see Leghorn, that's what I think. I have no idea where Leghorn is, but he went there.
I'm just talking about the fucking chicken.
I say.
I'm just be senator from Kentucky.
Leghorn, that's where he went. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, shit. I can't do shit with that fact.
He was, well, how you not? It's Fargo and Leghorn. You did already. You covered everything you needed to cover.
It's true.
He was going to go to Sicily and Greece, but the English Civil War cut it short. So he had to get back to England. He said, I can't go these places. I got to go back to England. Then he stayed in Europe for the continent for another couple of years. Went to Switzerland, a couple of things like that.
So he's just did all the things that I want to do.
And
do you think that maybe part of John Milton was reincarnated in me, and the fact that he can't do all of the things that he was destined to do is making him anxious and depressed, and that's why I feel like me all the time?
It might be. We'll keep on going about this. Also, he visited Galileo.
Oh, did
Galileo.
they make love?
Figaro. She's going to do that. I did that once before. I'm doing it again.
It wasn't funny the
Galileo.
first time. But you know what's really, really funny is listening to you attempt to make a joke and then giggle under your breath at your own joke, even though no part of it was funny or comprehensible.
It was funny to me, and that's what matters.
It doesn't, though. Our listeners are like, click, I just switched on Joe Rogan. Are you happy? You turned them into a Republican.
You mean our listener?
Oh, hello, listener. Be sure to write to Stan and tell him that he's not funny.
Okay, I'll skip Galileo. Galileo Figaro.
Unless they did some, wild adventures.
It's cool. It's like New Galileo. That'd be cool to know New Galileo. When he was in prison for heresy, he went and visited him.
Okay.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
Was it a conjugal visit?
Just maybe. He was fair.
Proud of you, John.
So I'm going to cover a little bit next is the English Civil War, which you're probably somewhat familiar with. Oliver Cromwell,
Tell me all
Charles II,
about
the Stuarts.
Tell
I'm
me
not going to go into all
it.
kinds of
Except
details.
for how incredibly depressing it was. Just kind of gloss over that, or at least tell me the depressing parts in kind of like a happy voice.
Well, there was the First and Second Bishops' War. We talked about the bishops. The knights are going to destroy the bishops. Why the fuck are the bishops fighting a war?
See, this is Stan talking about chess because he really likes the horsey pieces, as he calls them. The bishops are way better than the horsey pieces.
No, the horses got funky moves.
It's a useless funky move.
2 and 1 and 1 and 2. It's crazy.
So this was the most English war ever because it was just fought using
bishops.
chess and hoity-toityness.
Well, it said the bishops' war, and I got to look into this. Were the bishops actually fighting the war? Turns out they weren't. They were just different, bishops of different churches that were like, I want to be the best bishop. And the other guy was like, I want to be the best bishop. And then they had a war that they had other people fight about who was the best bishop.
Did they have a Pokemon showdown to determine who was the best bishop?
To fight the boss. It was like there was a Church of London, and it was like people wanted to have it to be this kind of church and that kind of church, and bishops were in charge, and so they had a lot of fighting going on. There's a lot of details about it. There was a group, and it said they wrote their pamphlets using the uncouth word smectominus.
That's a pretty uncouth word. I don't like that word. That word made me feel dirty.
I don't think it was a real word, but it sounds like something dirty. Smectominus. Smectominus.
Makes me feel like I need a hand wash and should have put on deodorant.
It was initials of a bunch of guys. He wasn't one of the writers. He was kind of in the background, giving the stuff. He was supposed to be a really good writer. It was one
John Milton.
Yeah, well,
I should hope he was a good writer. He wrote that thing.
Yeah, you don't even know much about it. We're going to learn a little bit about it, but not much. And this was
have Paradise Lost somewhere.
This is the Calvinists and the Puritans. So this is a time that the Americas were being populated because they were of all the fighting in Europe.
America was better before it was populated with Puritans.
Didn't really much exist as a European America.
Well, good. That's what I'm saying. It was better. It was much better.
And so one of the groups wanted a single Church of England everybody had to belong to, but Milton wanted to be more of freedom of religion. So he was a freedom of religion guy, one of the early guys. It was heretical at the time, but it was like...
Did he go to jail too?
He did a little bit. So
nice.
He pamphleteered for the Puritan cause. He was very much supporting the Puritan cause. He attacked the high church party of the Church of England, with frequent passages of real eloquence lighting up the rough, controversial style of the period. So he's very good writer. So he did a lot of, he supported a lot. I'm not going into a lot of details because it was like he wrote one thing after another, and it almost gets like this person begat that person, this person begat that person kind of.
How old was he when he died?
So I'd have to look at. He died in 1974. He was born
in 1608.
In 08.
So it's 74 minus 8.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's
66.
Yeah.
66. Okay, so that's a pretty good age.
I'm going to talk about his first marriage, and you're probably going to get a little upset because
did he marry a little kid?
He didn't marry when he was young. He did all his learning and traveling and all that kind of stuff, and he got married in 1877 when he was 35, in 1980 when he was 33, and in Wikipedia when he was 34. So sometime in that age range.
So nobody knows how old this fucker was?
That was his first marriage, so you know how old he was. And he married Mary Powell, and in 1877 she was 17 and 4 months. In 1980, she was half his age, and in Wikipedia, she was 17. So I'm assuming about 17. So
gross. That's super gross.
And she didn't like it.
Oh, well, Mary, as we all know, was smart. So,
and I think he was a good guy. He said that she was frivolous, unsuitable, and stupid. That's what they said in 1877. Let's see, second one. In 1980, they said he was an uneducated girl half his age, and just saying that Milton found her intellectually unsatisfying. So, I mean, she's half his age. She's just getting out of a childhood. And he's like, well, you're not as smart as me. He was a smart guy. So it didn't work out. They don't know if they even consummated the marriage to start with.
I feel like so I'm headcanoning some backstories for what happened here.
Yeah, I'm going to provide a little bit. But she left him.
I didn't know that you could get divorced in the 1600s.
That's what we're going to learn about, exactly. Because he wrote about it. He wrote an article about, at the time he said the sole cause admitted for divorce was adultery. But it might be less valid than incompatibility. And that the forced yoke of a loveless marriage was a crime against human dignity. So this was very heretical at the time because it was everything was based on the church and what they said. And he was saying, hey, if you're incompatible, which he felt he was and she felt she was, that you should be allowed to get a divorce. And it caused all kinds of issues. This was people thought he was a libertine. He just wanted to go out, and he didn't. He wasn't like that. He just felt that people should be able to make a decision that said, hey, this didn't work out. He was one of the first people to say that.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's why I want to say it's
I'm a proponent for no-fault divorce.
Yeah.
Irreconcilable differences divorce.
And he did court another woman named Davis. They don't say much about her, but she turned him down, and they think that actually prompted Mary to come back. They did eventually have kids. So after 2 years, they got back together. But he'd already stated that he thought divorce should be something allowed, which the church didn't allow. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And this caused all kinds of problems for him. And he ended up, one of his most famous works, other than the one we know about, was something called Areopagitica.
Okay.
And this is among history's most influential and impassioned defenses of freedom of speech and press. So basically he wrote what he thought, and people condemned him for that, complained about that, and he wrote an article that basically said freedom of press, freedom of speech should be allowed. So he's one of the earliest proponents of that. His things were what was used throughout history, throughout the American Revolution to create the Bill of Rights.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now You're not allowed to say anything unless it's hate speech.
I know. It's like now freedom of speech has turned into allowing
Freedom of speech
freedom
means,
of hate.
Freedom of speech, like half the country thinks that freedom of speech means freedom of hate speech with no consequences, which is not what it means.
Right. It should allow intellectual ideas
Yeah.
to be developed and said.
Yeah, but you can't say gay in the state of Florida
Right, exactly.
because Ron DeSantis doesn't want anybody to know his secret.
If you say gay too much, it's going to turn them gay.
Yeah. That is how it works.
Make sure I was joking when I said that. I don't want to get canceled.
When I was a child, I looked in the mirror and I said, gay, 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 over and over again, and it worked.
It flipped you.
Yep. Actually, what probably happened was I looked in the mirror and went, straight, 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 and that didn't work. Yep. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Sorry, everybody that I grew up with.
So I'm going to go a little bit into after his marriage. And this is Oliver. Oliver Cromwell was the leader of the Republican era of England during the English Civil War. So he was a backer of Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell was like trying to remove the monarchy and bring Republican ideas, rule through Parliament as opposed through a monarchy. So he was the first executive of the England at that time. He was a general to start with, and Milton was one of the people that backed him through his pamphlets, what he wrote. He supported the cause. He wanted freedom of religion. He wanted freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and also to not be ruled by an absolute monarch.
That all sounds pretty cool. I want a job like that.
It does sound cool until Oliver Cromwell declared himself the Lord Protector or the dictator of England.
I hate it when they do that.
It's like, why do they do that? Why do they get this thing? It's like, oh my God, this is a great cause. I'm fighting for your rights, but I'm the dictator.
You can't trust fucking anybody, man. Humans are shitty by nature.
Yeah, it's so weird that this guy was like backed by a lot of people, and they called it the Rump Parliament, not the Trump Parliament, the Rump.
That's funny because rump means butt, and I call Trump dump.
Well, it does mean butt. It's like the rest of Parliament. They got rid of all the royalists, and so it was the people who are truly supporting the people as opposed to the royalty, and they called it the Rump Parliament. And Milton was brought into that government as the Secretary for Foreign Tongues.
What a way to phrase that.
Yes.
Secretary for Foreign.
That was his position.
God damn it, Stan.
In 1980, it goes a little bit more about what he wrote. One of the things he wrote is that power resides always in the people. So they're trying to move it to monarchy. They want a Republican form of government, which it resides in the people, who delegate it to a sovereign, but may, if it is abused, resume it and depose or even execute the tyrant. So this is almost exactly what the Americans said when they're declaring independence from George. He felt he was a tyrant.
So even back then, Americans were ripping shit off.
Well, yeah, they were. They obviously, everything that in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution is from European ideas, although some people say the Europeans borrowed the ideas from the Native Americans about how they were living and governing themselves. But we can talk about it in a different episode.
Were you, while you were back there signing the Declaration of Independence, were you aware of the influence of John Milton on what you were signing?
Maybe. I kind of.
You were pretty drunk back then. You're pretty drunk now. Good time.
So it's just cool seeing that this guy was one of the ones that led to all these things, and I knew him as he wrote that Paradise Lost thing. So it was amazing learning this stuff. So a little bit back to his marriage. So his first wife that he got back with, so she died in childbirth,
As you do, which is
common back then.
That is as God intended. You were supposed to die at 22 in childbirth.
Yeah, I mean it's.
If you don't die in childbirth, you are committing a sin against God.
And he married a second wife who also died in childbirth. Yeah.
As God intended.
Yeah, but this guy really liked Cromwell. He liked him, but he was like didn't like the bad things when he became Lord Protector, but he was really, really supportive. Oh, and he did argue for religious freedom, except for Roman Catholics.
That sounds personal.
Since Catholicism had already shown itself a danger to national security. So that was his reason for freedom of religion, except for Catholicism.
Please elaborate.
That was it. There was the whole battle between Catholics and the Roundheads and all that stuff at that time. But so he thought Catholics should be like not allowed to have freedom of religion. And I also looked in Wikipedia. It said the Secretary of Foreign Tugs composed the English Republic's foreign correspondence in Latin or other languages. So because he knew so many languages, he was able to write all the official documents.
In all the other languages?
Yeah.
Like he translated it?
He translated it. He was a translator. That's
okay. What was the purpose of translating the documents?
So the people on the continent could read it. So Latin was a common language, or French, and so he was able to translate things to them.
Just in case they were super interested.
Just in case it's part of the poem.
Just in case. Whenever he translated his long-ass poem into French and Spanish and Latin and Greek and Hebrew and possibly Dutch.
He did write a lot in Latin and stuff, and people had to figure it out, but they knew it back then. Except that one guy, he didn't even know Greek.
Oh, what a fucking idiot.
So Charles I was executed when Oliver Cromwell took over, but then when Oliver Cromwell died, his kid took over. It was a series of just bad dudes. And eventually they had the Restoration, which brought Charles II back into to be a ruler. And this eventually led to Bonnie Prince Charlie, but we're not going to talk about him there.
Okay.
So when they did the Restoration, which put the royalty back in charge, the Stuart line back in charge, they were surprised that Milton wasn't executed because he was so involved with what Cromwell was doing and supported him. It said the Charles II government executed the leaders of the Republican form of government and even exhumed and hanged the bodies of the people that were already dead.
All right.
This is like a fuck you kind of thing.
It's extra as fuck.
And then there was a act of oblivion in 1660 that pardoned everyone. So Milton was included in that pardon. But then...
well, I mean, now we only mass pardon people who commit treason against the government and the people.
And they said that there was a warrant issued for his arrest. His writings were burned. He went into hiding, probably went into a priest hole.
A priest hole! Hey!
And then they did the general pardon, and he was still arrested because he thought he was free. So he said, hey, I came out of the priest hole. And
but they were waiting for him on the other side of the hole.
Exactly. They knew it was there. We know there's a priest hole here somewhere. And then he was arrested, but his friends intervened because he had friends in high places, not friends in low places.
Friends who liked his priest hole.
So this is all before Paradise Lost.
Okay. Hero Paradise Lost. What happened in the priest hole?
That's why Paradise was lost. It said 1877, he said he didn't treat his daughters well because he was like a bachelor. Both of his wives had died. And so it sounded like his place was a mess, just disgusting. And he didn't take care of himself. It was like he let them run outside and poop in the yard and let nature take care of it.
Just raising wild wolves.
And then he went blind.
Perfect story. Perfect. Publish it as is. No, it is.
So he wrote Paradise Lost when he was blind. He had to have people write it down based on what he said. But it was like I didn't know this stuff about him. He did have a third wife.
While he was blind?
Yes. So
Okay.
he was blind. He was 55 years old, and he married a 25-year-old. And it seemed they did match. He wasn't wealthy at this time. He was just like a regular guy, blind. His daughters were like off on their own.
Shitting in the woods, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. And he just went and lived his life in somewhere in London, just kind of off on his own, and started writing Paradise Lost. And it was finished in 1665. Said the Great Fire of London in 1666 delayed the publication, as well as his reputation under Cromwell, because they didn't like him because he was a Republicanist and they were back into like a monarchy at that time.
The Queen.
And he sold the rights for £5 and an additional £5 more after 1,300 copies were sold, and then £5 more for the second and third publication. And he's not getting any money today.
How many pounds is that today?
So I looked that up. So £5 is equivalent to 770 pounds in 2015.
Wow.
And each copy was sold for 3 shillings, which is equivalent to 23 pounds. And for the first edition, he got like 1,550 pounds. And so the publishing house, received 29,900 pounds based on his 1,550 pounds. So he basically just gave it away. This is like one of hugely influential books still today. I mean, it's influential based on poetry. It was a blank verse poem.
Ew.
It was one of the first blank verse poems. They didn't think the first poet laureate of London was a guy named John Dryden, and he thought all poems have to rhyme. It's got to rhyme.
Oh yeah, otherwise it's just saying your stream of consciousness thoughts out loud.
And this guy, he wrote Paradise Lost, which was a poem written in 10 books, blank verse, and everybody thought that it was necessary.
Just write a normal book.
And this gave him a reputation as a great, if not the greatest poet of his time. First of all, let me ask you this. Did you know Paradise Lost was a poem?
Yes. Did you not know it was Did you not know it was a poem?
I thought it was just a book.
Well, I mean, it might as well have been. No rhymes? Are you kidding me? Why even speak English if you're not going to make your poetry rhyme?
It says the details about the rhythm of his blank verse poetry, it's never monotonous. It was like supposed to be just this incredibly different thing that he had done. And that really started building his reputation again, as far as not just being a promoter of, freedom. That's what he was doing before, free speech, freedom of religion, that type of stuff. This gave him a reputation as a poet.
He believed in so much freedom, except for the Catholics, that even his verse was free. Okay, I see what you did there.
And his reputation, it says, in 1980, it said Milton stands next to Shakespeare among English poets. His prose in the Puritan Revolution is important, and things are still used today. They did say the Romantic poets, Blake and Shelley, launched this Satanist misinterpretation of Paradise Lost and made him appear as a rebel. He was just, because he's the one that started Satan as a real thing, a person. It wasn't just like this demon. It was like something real.
Was it just some guy named Mart? Like some guy that John didn't like?
Maybe.
Is that how you got your name? You just deleted one of the A's?
I'm just sad because page 7 is gone.
From Satan to Stan.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the devil,
I took the
right?
A out.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense otherwise. How are you so immortal? Why are you so dark pink? It all makes sense now.
It probably does, but it was like he had like his reputation has vacillated a little bit throughout the years. So he's admired by some, others it's not so much. But he still has like a couple things. In a lot of libraries, it says, a good book is a precious lifeblood of a master spirit embalmed and treasured up on purpose to a life beyond life. And that's from the book that talked about freedom of speech. The book, His Dark Materials, is from a quotation in Paradise Lost where he said, "Hid dark materials to create more worlds."
Nice.
Yeah,
nice
so it's
Philip
kind of
Pullman
cool.
reference there.
Yeah, exactly. I threw in Philip Pullman in there.
Yeah. I knew you would like Philip Pullman.
There's a bunch of other books that are, had borrowed phrases for their titles, but those are the ones I, threw out there.
Nice. Well, if I find my copy of Paradise Lost, would you like to read it?
Maybe. It kind of sounds interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it is a poem. You might get bored.
So, what do you think of John Milton? He's cool, right?
Yeah, that was probably the most interesting and least bad that you've done so far. So I'm going to give you a single clap.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to shift into the Arctic Ocean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna take the plane and we're gonna drive it straight into the Arctic Ocean in classic Stan fashion. Let's go.
Arctic Ocean is interesting because in 1877 they didn't know much about it because it's fucking cold in the Arctic Ocean and there's a bunch of ice.
If it's cold and a bunch of ice and you don't know too much about it, that probably means that Dump wants to invade it, right?
At least
tariff it.
Yeah.
Fucking kill me.
Yeah, it probably is a tariff on it.
It's a tariff on the Arctic Ocean.
1877, it kind of talks about these general things, like it's way up north and it's got some sounds and channels in it. They're talking about there's a Kennedy Channel and a Lincoln Sea, but that wasn't named after Abraham Lincoln or John Kennedy. It says a bunch of rivers feeds into it. It says human habitat is most desolate that can be conceived. Extraordinary abundance of the lower forms of animal life. Really not much going on there. It says that in a remoter period, they saw that it was covered with forest and maybe corals and sponges. And it says a very large portion is still unexplored, but almost every year more and more gets explored. And that's all it really said in 1877. Not much about it because they didn't know much. In 1980, it covers a little bit more. It says it's the smallest of the Earth's 5 oceans: Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, Southern, and Arctic.
What's the Southern Ocean? What is that known as now?
It's still called the Southern Ocean. It's a new one. It's one. It was recognized first in 1930s, but it wasn't recognized officially until 1999, and that's the one that just encircles Antarctica. That's the Southern Ocean. It gives a clue that it's in the south in the name of the ocean, being southern.
Well, pretty soon Antarctica will be the Southern Ocean. I mean, it's kind of already there, right? Didn't we melt Antarctica?
Yeah, we covered a little bit about that.
Trying to uncover all those viruses in the permafrost and end this shit show early.
So
that's why I don't recycle.
The Greeks theorized that it must have a midnight sun in the summer and pure darkness in the winter. They knew the Earth was round, and so they could figure out that it's got to be dark or light there. They also had speculations about a land beyond the north wind where the sun always shone, and people called Hyperboreans led a peaceful life. That was just all made up, not real.
Made up by who?
The Greeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they knew some stuff, and then they said, well, maybe just people live there, and it's all open. The Russians started exploring in the 17th and 18th century, looking for passageways. By the 1877, most of the coastland had been explored, but no one had gone much north of there. They thought maybe Greenland actually went over the entire North Pole. It was actually another continent attached to Wrangel Island. But then there was a ship that got caught there that drifted, and they said, well, I guess that didn't happen because the ship didn't go on any land. Robert Peary went to the North Pole in 1909.
Oh, a Peary.
He started putting ships there and basins there. It says it may be regarded as an estuary of the Atlantic, not a real ocean. It's just kind of like a portion of the Atlantic. They know very little about the circulation of the water through there. This is all really boring stuff. I'm trying to find something that was interesting.
It's all right. I'm just letting the hamster run on the wheel in my brain until it gets tired.
It said there's strong evidence of uninterrupted sea ice for 3 million years, but it's going to be interrupted soon.
No.
And, they talk a little bit about there's plankton there, but it's less than 10% of other areas because it's so cold. Got some fish and mammals. I mean, polar bears live there. The Arctic fox lives there. Walruses.
What other animals?
Seals, whales. Yeah. Wikipedia says some people call it the Arctic Mediterranean Sea or the northernmost part of the world ocean. That's one I like, the northernmost part of the world ocean. And it does talk about the sea ice decline. It's diminished by 49%. It said Pytheas recorded a journey to a land he called Ashut-Thul. He said the water was replaced by a congealed substance on which one can neither walk nor sail.
A congealed substance?
A congealed substance.
Okay, wait. Did they not know what ice was?
Well, they said it was probably loose sea ice, which is today known as growlers.
Growlers.
Which is the same thing I drink beer out of.
Yeah. You should get some.
And it says that Thule, the shaped Thule, was probably Norway.
Thule.
So in the 19th century, there was a myth of an open polar ocean. Like it wasn't just like a mile of ice. It was actually, you could have an ocean there. And everybody claimed to go try to find it. And then some people said they saw it, but it wasn't true. First surface crossing was Wally Herbert in 1969. First nautical transit was 1958 by the USS Nautilus. And the first surface transit was the icebreaker NS Arctica. Went and broke the ice. We're going through this thing. Couldn't stop them.
That's fucking Kool-Aid man, the fucking All right.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can be famous for anything as long as you're the first to do it. It doesn't matter if it should or needed to be done.
And now there's a lot of disputes there now because people are trying to claim where their continent ends by the continental shelf, and so they can claim economic exclusivity over areas because there's a lot of oil and gas and things that you may not need if you switch into a renewable economy. But
well, that's impossible. Stan, this is heretical Satanism and impossible. You mustn't say such things.
Am I like John Milton? Galileo?
I don't think that you know enough foreign tongues to be John Milton. You barely
don't even know Greek.
You barely know your domestic tongue. We'll both take a coffee sip break at the same time, leading to an awkward pause.
Yeah, I'll cut that out. That's easy to do. I have a little program that says cut out the pauses.
You shan't cut it out.
They say that the Arctic may become ice-free in the summer of 2040 if we make it that long as a democracy.
There's no fucking democracy. Are you kidding me? Democracy was a mistake.
And one of the guys promoting that was John Milton, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, he went blind, so... Shows how far in the future he was looking.
Do you know why he went blind?
Because he was
because his wife left him for 2 years.
Oh, I thought it was because he murdered her using children.
He did.
That's how I like to murder wives.
By children. That's manslaughter.
Yeah,
he could probably work as a clerk.
He could have
a scrivener.
A scrivener. You know, the only reason I know the word scrivener is because there's a fountain pen called Scrivener. Yeah, like legit. I'm not smart. I just recognize patterns.
You're learning so much. I can just see the knowledge pouring out of you now.
Ain't pouring out of me because it goes in one ear, out the other.
I believe that too.
Yeah.
So the new worry now is about calthrate breaking down and releasing methane, which is a more potent greenhouse gas. And
I'm aware of methane. I live with a man.
Do you know what calthrate is?
I'm gonna guess that what's his name? That Calvin guy?
No, it's not Calvin.
Okay,
No.
well, I'm gonna...
It's basically frozen methane at the bottom of the ocean.
Ew.
Yeah. All right. The Arctic thing was kind of boring, and the one thing I did learn, I always know this, is I keep saying Arctic and not Arctic. There's a C in there. It just seems like Arctic sounds right. It's Arctic. Yeah. Yeah.
Arctic.
I know. It's just so confusing.
Arctic. Yeah, I don't know if the Arctic Ocean is getting a poem.
All right.
But I'll try to write like a little two-liner for the Arctic Ocean.
What about Salsola Kali? There's so much stuff on Salsola Kali.
Oh, okay, well, give me the highlight reel from its life.
Okay, I'll give you that. So this is a plant. It's in the amaranth family. Now, first of all, I will tell you I couldn't find Salsola Kali in 1877 or in 1980. But I did look up amaranth. And you know what was in there?
What was it?
You wouldn't know, but I'm going to tell you what was in there.
Wait, was it arithmetic?
No.
Okay.
Amaranth. So it's in the amaranth family. So Salsola Kali is in the amaranth family, which includes carnations and beets, some carnivorous plants, quinoa or quinoa. They're both in there. And it says in 1877, amaranth, a name chiefly used in poetry and appointed to certain plants which, from not soon fading, typified immortality. And they include a few lines from Milton's Paradise Lost.
How
Isn't that weird?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Full circle.
It says, immortal amaranth, a flower shine once in paradise, fast by the tree of life, began to bloom, but soon for man's offense to heave removed. That's blank verse poetry from John Milton.
I mean, it kind of rhymed, though.
It doesn't rhyme. Maybe a little bit of rhythm.
Okay. Well, I clearly have already forgotten everything that I just learned. So.
It said it's able to retain its color for years. That's why it got this thing of immortality.
Oh, nice.
Now, here's where it gets really, really weird because, so Salsola Kali is a historical name, like the plant species or whatever it is, or order species. And then it was changed to Kali turgidum. It's native to Micronesia. Mm-hmm. Micronesia includes the Canary Islands, which we always talk about. Mm-hmm. Always talk about the Canary Islands.
All the time, every minute of every day when we're not recording, we're talking about the Canary Islands.
It's the Azores, Madeira, Cape Verde. It's in the Atlantic coast of Europe and the Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm.
It was commonly known as prickly saltwort or prickly glasswort. Prickly. Saltwort or glasswort. It has a relative in dry inland places. So this grows on the coastal regions in salty water, and its relative grows in like deserts. Its relative is called Salsola tragus. So Salsola Kali, Salsola tragus. You may have heard Salsola tragus known as Russian thistle.
Nope.
You may have heard it as called tumbleweed.
Oh, no.
Yes, it is bringing tumbleweed back. This is tumbleweed.
Whoa.
It's Russian thistle. It's an invasive plant in the U.S. It was introduced likely in the 1870s.
God damn it.
So all that stuff about tumbleweeds wasn't happening before 1870. So I don't know when it actually started, like, slowly.
Well, how do we get rid
across.
of them? I hate those things. They're so annoying. Yeah, they literally blow across the highway when you're just trying to go places.
Yeah, it's
Fucking-
like it's a tumbleweed.
Yeah, I almost hit a tumbleweed with my car once.
What did it do?
It ran across a fucking highway while I was on it. Which, if you do that, I'm gonna hit you with my car. I don't want to scratch my paint.
Oh, okay. Just a scratching of the paint. No damage.
Well,
No
I mean, like, it
airbags.
narrowly avoided getting hit by my car, but I was upset because I thought I was going to hit a tumbleweed, and it would just fuck up my day. Like when you hit a deer and you're like, oh, my front bumper.
I saw like a mouse run across the road today, and I had to avoid it. It was weird.
You don't have to avoid a mouse.
You do. It's like the mouse is just like he's like hopping.
Why is there a mouse and why is he in the road? He clearly wants to die.
It was a field mouse.
A field mouse.
Going from one field to the next, going like just, and it's thinking like that's a huge leap of faith. You're just this wide open area.
How did you even see that?
You got good eyesight, girl.
You're wearing glasses. You clearly have John Milton at age 66 eyesight.
Eyesight blindness.
Yeah.
So I had to look up like Kali Turgadum, which was the other name for Salsola Kali. And I'm like, why did Kali Turgadum get the works? Why are they getting rid of this thing? What was going on? And so it was originally called Salsola Turgadum. And they thought that the Salsola Kali and Salsola Turgadum were subspecies, but they ended up saying they're separate. So they created this thing called Kali Turgadum. And then they did some molecular research, and some guy named Moishakin said it's like, no, should be Salsola Kali and Salsola tragus are the two things. They're not subspecies of each other. They're just related. And so all the Kalis were moved back to Salsola. It was like, this is like probably...
was this guy a botanist?
I think these were all botanists. I think this is like some botanist humor. Hey, how did Kali Turgadum get the works?
That's their water cooler conversation.
Yeah, exactly. They're talking about, no, I think it's like, I did my genetic research. Well, Linnaeus, he said...
Fascinating.
So these plants are halophytes, which means they absorb salt. So that's why they grow by the ocean in briny water, or by the desert, which is the tumbleweed. It's succulent, which means it stores water. And when you burn it and you create the ash, you get sodium carbonate, and this is soda ash. So it was called prickly saltwort because it absorbed salt. It was called prickly glasswort because it was used in the glass making process.
Hey!
See, I'm tying everything together. Everything is getting tied together.
Is this the last episode? Is this the season finale?
Pulling everything together. It should be.
Dude, is this the season finale? Okay, everyone, this is now the last episode of season 1, or possibly ever, depending on whether you give us any fucking money. I swear to God. Yo.
So it was like, I thought that was cool because they got soda ash from this plant. They got wood or potash from burning or ashes of wood, and that's potassium, carbon, and oxygen. And potash was used in the glass-making process, and then the Venetians came up with soda ash from these plants to create the clear glass that we talked about in that episode a couple times ago. So it's like glasswort and saltwort, and this is what caused that crystal glass they were able to create with like clear glass, crystalla, which I thought was cool. Now, we always get incorrect information though, right?
Yes.
Always did. So I looked up in 1980 under glass production just to see if it mentioned this at all. And it said desirable but scarcer material included potash produced by burning seaweed and favored by the Venetians above soda ash, which is opposite. So it was the soda ash produced by burning seaweed and favored by Venetians above potash. And if you look at the word potash, you realize, oh yeah, they got the name from pot ash because they had the ash that was left over in the pot. That's what it got the name potash.
Okay.
It was like all these things that just make sense.
That seems like a really important fact to include in the encyclopedia.
And then it was there's a guy named William Turner. He wrote plant books in 1562 and 1568. And the Venetian glassmakers saw that this plant existed in England, so when they moved there, they realized they could use it. And William Turner said prior to their arrival, it was the plant that hath no name in English. So the name of it was just there. Well, what do you guys call that? What? Just, I don't have a name for it, so they just called it. Oh yeah, and this stuff just grows there.
This stuff just grows there. Perfect.
And then, so the process of burning glasswort, saltwood was commercialized for glass making until the LeBlanc process replaced it in 1791. And the research was funded by King Louis XVI, which was the one that was guillotined. And Nicolas LeBlanc was the guy that found this new process. And then today we use the Solvay process, so it replaced the LeBlanc process in the 1860s, and that's what they use today. Salt brine and limestones are cheap and readily available, and it's easy to make this soda ash.
Okay.
Now, just the whole process. So you burn these plants, and it's the same thing for like potash or soda ash. You burn the plants, then you mix it with water. You remove all the ash, so just material, and you're left with the brine that just contains this soda ash or potash, and they evaporate that, which this is also used in the soap making process from Fight Club.
Hey!
I said we are tying everything in the world together just like this one episode. It's like,
this is fantastic. This is probably our best ever episode, even though I was only half listening to most of it. And I think it should be our season finale. I really think it should be.
And we should start a new season?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that...
What if this was purely accident to find a season finale episode that just brought this plant that... what the hell is Salsola Kali?
This podcast is clearly very well planned out, thoroughly, every detail. So this is always going to be the season finale.
I guess so.
Yeah. God, we're so good at this.
I know, it's just accidental. It's just like everything came together.
Imagine if we were shitty at this and we didn't
I thought we were shitty at this. I thought that was it's the genuine shittiness, and we keep it genuine.
Season 1 is about being genuinely shitty. Season 2 is about being a stuffy, heavily monitored, uncancelable, with an editor and a real producer podcast.
You mean like a older white man?
Yep. In fact, that's going to be the new name of the podcast, just older white man. You don't need to know any else.
They're going to just bootstrap every time.
You can come in your Mitch McConnell costume.
Wait a minute, that's not a costume. That's my face.
Your actual face. You're extremely
Mitch
fungible.
McConnell face.
Oh my god.
So, one more thing. You know how this is called Salsola Kali?
Yep.
And you've probably heard the term alkali for something that is base alkali. That's what it was named from. It's like there was a term, the Arabic term for soda ash was al-Kali. And so that's what the name for alkali come from, or this Kali came from, all these things kind of together. I said it's like bring it all together. It's like so many things you've learned from this, from such a, just a benign topic. You're like, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about glass making and soap making, and John Milton referenced it in his poetry, and 1980 they got potash and soda ash mixed up and made for all this stuff, yeah. And the tumbleweed. You can't forget the tumbleweed. You forgot the tumbleweed because that's when you weren't paying attention.
No, I was super paying attention. You'll see. God, this is the best. This is the best subject ever.
That's it. That's all I got.
Well, would you like to hear the poems
the poem,
I wrote about?
First of all, is it blank verse?
Well, okay. I'll show you.
I don't know if it's blank verse or not.
I wrote you 3 little poems, one for each topic.
Nice.
And I didn't go back and make sure that it actually works as poems. So,
it's blank verse then.
You want to listen to me just puke into this microphone for a minute and a half?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All right. The first one goes, Lady John Milton, grandson of Dick Ranger, thought Catholicism was a societal danger. His many ideas were ahead of their time, so much so that Paradise Lost doesn't rhyme. A polyglot with a most brilliant mind, he authored great works even once he'd gone blind. In John Milton fashion, the rest of this poem doesn't rhyme, so you can just kind of make it up and change the ending every time you read, and it doesn't really matter what you say because free verse is ass. Wobble up a dub dub. So that's the first poem. Okay, so this one's about the Arctic Ocean.
Wasn't much on that. You had to stretch on that one.
It was yeah. So it goes, the Arctic Ocean is an ocean. Some dumbasses had a notion to drive a ship into the ice, and for this boring poem, 4 lines will suffice.
Very good.
All right, and then for our last and greatest topic about that plant,
What's it called?
I don't fucking know.
You need to have that ingrained in your mind. Salsola Kali.
Well,
a
I
relative
think that
of
the
tumbleweed.
reason that I didn't remember it was that I'm not 100% sure that you're pronouncing it well.
Oh, there's one thing. I got to find this in here because it has an opposite. There's an opposite glasswort and an opposite tumbleweed.
Okay.
I can't remember what they were, but it's like, I think what happens is the tumbleweed tumbles across and then gets fixed in place.
Okay. So, what is the plant called again? Say it one more time.
Salsola Kali.
Okay, you want to hear my poem for the subject of Salsola Kali?
Yes.
Okay. Motherfucking tumbleweeds. They run across the roads at speeds unbecoming of a plant. And now I will conclude my rant. If you like our podcast, send us cash, or our hearts will turn to soda ash. Well,
I thought it was going to be longer. My mouth is full.
Well, Stan's putting random shit in his mouth, so I guess that's a wrap.
We got to go through our topics.
Oh,
I meant to do this ahead of time. I didn't, though.
Okay, do we want to announce the topics, or
tell
do
you.
we want to conclude the season?
I'll say with the topic. We can still do topics for next time.
Oh, okay. If you send us money, then we'll make more.
Yes. So from 1877, Volume 12, HIR through IND, page 836. From 1980 is Volume 9, Humidity through the Ivory Coast, page 852. And from Wikipedia, I forgot to do Wikipedia.
Oh, no.
Shame on me.
Shame.
No, shame on glue.
Oh, well, I can tell my super glue story while you do that if you want. I was using some super glue, and I accidentally glued 2 of my fingers to a toothpick. I'm not even going to explain what was going on, but I accidentally glued a toothpick to my body, and I couldn't get it off. It really hurt to try, and I was afraid it was going to rip off my fingerprints. So that's when I understood the deep meaning and warning, the wise warning of the song, I glued my balls to my butthole again.
That's a cool story.
Fool me once, shame on you.
Fool you twice.
Shame on glue.
So our Wikipedia article is actually somebody I know. I don't know him, but I recognize the name.
I thought it was going to be one of your friends.
No. Bun E. Carlos. He's the drummer for Cheap Trick, the guy that looks like just a regular guy, not like a musician.
Sure this isn't one of your friends? Sounds like someone you know.
It looks like it's an older white guy. He looks like...
Okay, older white guy is the name of our podcast now.
Looks like he's a plumber.
Perfect. Well, that's perfect for Season 2, Episode 1, or
Yes.
Season 1, Episode 1 of Older White Man.
Yes. Cool.
All right.
Well, done for the day?
We didn't do terribly today.
I
So.
thought it was okay.
Yeah, I think we did it.
In spite of everything.
In spite of all the horrors. In spite of
all the horrors that are going on.
In spite of stroking my sword whilst lamenting the social realities.
Yeah, it's a weird social reality right now.
In spite of the social realities. All right. Well, shall we do a little goodbye jingle to say farewell to Season 1?
Yeah, because you did like 3 poems. You have a jingle ready? There's a guitar right there.
So I tested the guitar. It's extremely out of tune, so I think that we're just a-cappella-ing it. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Come on. 3, 2, 1. Goodbye.
Goodbye.